Alright guys, 20th tutorial, real quick tutorial. I finally typed all this code and finished up our program. See, look at all this. You really didn't want to have to sit there and watch me type all this, did you? But anyways, now that I typed it, I want to show you guys what I did and how it works. The first thing we did is we synthesized all of our outlets. I mean, this is nothing new, just housekeeping stuff. And after this, the really first thing we did is we called this method called will animate rotation to interface orientation. And go ahead and start typing that, and all your parameters are going to pop up. Just keep everything good by default. And what this method is, it's a built-in method. And what we just did is, well, we inherited it from our parent class, and we needed to overwrite it. So this method by default gets called after you rotate your iPod Touch or iPhone. And what it does is it looks at the interface, and it pretty much what it does is it looks at the orientation of how you're holding it, and depending on how you're holding it, displays your objects a certain way. So, I mean, by default, it has all your default settings, of course, but if you override it, you can manually type in the exact location of where and when you want to position each object. So what we did is we made one if statement. If the orientation is portrait, that means if you're just holding it up and down like you were talking on the phone, what you need to do is you need to change each frame and put it in a specific location. Now, each button has a property called a frame, and a frame is pretty much the container that holds that object, in this case the button. So you always want your frame to be the same size of your object, and remember, ours were 125 by 125. This is the last two things you need to draw. The first two things are the location on your screen. So this first one is 20 pixels across, 20 pixels down. Draw a frame that's 125 wide by 125 tall. And by the way, this CG rectangle make is we're going to be getting into drawing later, but CG means core graphics, and whenever you make a CG object, it pretty much just draws something on screen. So what we did is we pretty much drew a rectangle. I mean, you couldn't actually see it, of course, it's invisible, but it pretty much was a container, aka frame, to hold the button. So by default, when you're holding your phone straight up and down, we drew each frame pretty much giving it coordinates of where we want our button to go. And this else statement right here, this is what this means. Alright, by default, if the orientation is equal to holding it straight up and down, then go ahead and draw it appropriately. Else, if you're holding it sideways, go ahead and redraw them so they're standing next to each other instead of overlapping. You can pretty much draw them anywhere on the screen. You can even draw them to make a shape of a hot dog if you want. But anyways, since we didn't have upside down, remember in our properties, we can never hold it upside down. So this handles the orientation if it's being held straight up and down. This handles it if it's being held in landscape. Remember, we can't even hold it upside down. We didn't specify those attributes, so we don't even have to worry about that. So after I pretty much overrode this method right here and called an if statement to handle how you want to draw the objects and when you want to draw them, the only other things I did is set all of our outlets equal to nil. This is just to free up memory. We'll be talking about this later when we talk about different views. And we also released all of our buttons because, remember, we retained them. So then we needed to release them when we were done with them. So again, this is just memory stuff down there. You don't really need to know about that. I mean, you do need to know about it, but you don't. So check this out. I'll give you guys one example. Let me go up. And right now, we're holding it in portrait. So check this out. This button number 1 right here is 20 pixels over, 20 pixels down, and it is 125 wide and 125 tall. So this button number 2 is 175 pixels over, 20 pixels down, And of course 125, 125. We didn't change that for anything. So now let's go ahead and put hardware rotate left and see what we got now. Well, now let's go ahead and look at button 2. Button 2 right here is in the bottom left. That means it's 20 pixels over, 155 pixels down, and 125 by 125 because, that's just the size of the button. And how we reposition all these buttons to make sure that they all fit on the screen next to each other, besides instead of overlapping, we just pretty much figured out how wide our iPhone screen was, and we pretty much just, went through this stuff. You probably need a calculator in your hand to figure out all this stuff, but this is where you pretty much position everything to make sure it just fits nicely on the screen. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Just want to show you guys the key thing is this is the method that you need to pass in, and to interface orientation, set this equal to whatever orientation you're using, and then the conditions is how you want your objects to display. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask me on my forum. The link is below in the iPhone development section. And also, I posted all the source code for this, so you don't have to, keep rewinding it and watch this tutorial. You can just go ahead and copy all of my source code, post it in your Xcode, and watch it run. And once you do, it'll make a whole lot more sense. So for now, I just want to, I don't really want to do anything right now except eat pudding. But thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. And in the next tutorial, we're going to be going over multiple views. That means a program that has more than one screen. We haven't done it yet. It's going to be super awesome. I'm more excited for it than I've ever been before in my entire life. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.